It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's weekly Media Roundup 545 Live. I'm Roland Boyden.
And I'm Abby Sherlock. On deck for this episode, we've got lots of footage from Al Roker's visit to Brattleboro last night, all the latest in the homicide investigation of Sultan Rashed, more footage as officials investigate last week's Valgar St fire, and we'll get you some video from this week's gas-fired electric plant talks in Vernon.
All that and more, and remember, we do it in just 15 minutes, so stick with us right here on 545 Live. Welcome back to this November 13th, Friday the 13th no less, 2015 edition of 545 Live. Now, that's footage of the Vermont and U.S. flags at half-mast around Brattleboro as ordered by the governor this week in acknowledgement of the death of former Vermont Lieutenant Governor Barbara Snelling, who passed away last week at the age of 87. Snelling served 2 terms as Vermont Lieutenant Governor from 1992 to 1997 and was a member of the Vermont Senate from 1998 until her retirement in 2002. Now, unfortunately, that's not the end of death-haunted headlines for our news broadcast today, as our next story focuses on the suspected murder of area resident Sultan Rashed.
Police were called to Old Ferry Road this Monday after the body of 35-year-old Sultan Rashed was discovered in a car there. Rashed, who family members recalled as a loving husband and father and vibrant community member, suffered a fatal gunshot wound that a state police autopsy determined was consistent with a homicide, not a suicide. The investigation is at this point ongoing with no arrests in the case made to date. For more, we'll take you back to Monday night when reformer photographer Christopher Ratter was on the scene, DSLR in hand, to gather the short video report.
The Vermont State Police and the Brattleboro Police Department are jointly investigating an untimely death on Old Ferry Road in the town of Brattleboro on Monday, November 9th. Brattleboro police officers were called this morning to a location on Old Ferry Road for a medical emergency. Upon arrival, officers found a lone male deceased in the vehicle. Rescue personnel also responded and confirmed the death. The cause of death is still being investigated, and the Vermont State Police crime scene search team is actively processing the scene. Check out reformer.com for updates as information is released.
That footage courtesy of reformer photographer Christopher Ratter from Monday night's tragic death on Old Ferry Road is part of their tout.com channel. Now you can find this at Brat Reformer, tout.com/Brat Reformer. Don't even need the old row. It's where reformer photographers and reporters can upload short video clips from the field on the go as they report. You can find all the latest headlines, including the tragedy from this week. All right, now we're going to move on here and get more details on that case when possible. We'll also be sure to get you that Al Roker footage that we promised earlier in the broadcast. But first, police have now reclassified last weekend's Valgar St fire that displaced 45 residents at the 12-unit building as suspicious, though no further details as to the backing for this determination have been released as of this broadcast. Now, Abby, you were at the scene of the Red Cross relocation for the displaced families at the Gibson-Aiken Center earlier this week for a special report that also included footage from BCTV volunteers Esther Areste, James Banslaven, and Joe Bushy, who together documented the fire and the subsequent fallout for the families. Let's take you back to that clip now.
45 children and adults were evacuated from a Valgar St apartment building after a fire early Saturday morning. Fire Chief Mike Bukasi made the call to bring in all off-duty personnel after arriving at the scene, and later brought in 6 more engines and several ladders. Bukasi wanted to be able to search the whole building and ensure everyone was found and safe. Due to varying levels of heat and smoke damage in the apartment building, the residents are living at the Gibson-Aiken Center until the state inspects the building for safety again. The fire was declared under control 2.5 hours after it began, and there were no injuries. All right, now as promised, footage from Al Roker's visit to Brattleboro last night. As the NBC weatherman made his way to Brattleboro's Piney Park last night to complete the Vermont part of his Guinness record-setting 7-day, 48-state weather reporting tour, area residents and organizations gathered in the rain in downtown last night for nearly 4 hours to await Roker's arrival as he made his way from his previous stop in Maine to complete the day's filming in the Green Mountain State. And amongst the chaos, BCTV producer extraordinaire Maria Dominguez was there to gather some footage of Roker's broadcast up close and personal.
Well, we've been waiting for a while. Happened. Al Roker has made it, you guys!
All right, thanks to Maria for that footage from Al Roker's visit last night. Also thanks to James Banslaben and Janice Shalau as they were all there helping with the broadcast coverage of that. We'll get you a full video that'll show in the coming week from all the hubbub downtown last night. But in the meantime, a short clip there. All right, with that, we're going to move on as we've still got plenty of area headlines to cover on this edition. And we're going to next head south to Vernon, where this week the town's planning commission presented before a packed and at times confrontational house about their work so far, exploring the possibility of bringing a natural gas-fired power plant to Vernon. A roughly $800 million construction proposal that the commission hopes could bring up to 600 jobs to the region during the plant's construction and retain 30 to 40 high-paying jobs during the plant's operational period, which could begin as early as 2019. And while Vernon residents are undoubtedly eager to recoup tax revenues lost to the closure of Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant, and in the bigger picture provide more electricity to contribute to grid stability in the region, many who turned out for Tuesday's public forum voiced intense skepticism for a plan whose health effects on the area have not been researched by the commission, and one that relies on tying into the highly controversial Kinder Morgan pipeline to funnel into the state a form of fossil fuel that Vermont's own legislature banned the production of through the use of fracking more than 2 years ago.
So at the end of these negotiations, we will be fortunate in this town if our taxes haven't tripled. Now that's not a reason to vote for a gas plant, and every one of us know that. You know, we can say as a state we're against fracking, but yet we have a gas pipeline coming down the western part of the state. We get gas from Canada. Gas is fracked. That's how we get it.
Now you can see that full Vernon Planning Commission public info session on bringing a gas-fired electric plant to Vernon. All the questions that were asked, an original PowerPoint presentation from Planning Commission member Martin Langveld, who put together a PowerPoint on a lot of the pre-research that the commission has done to prep the town to figure out if they want to make that decision. And they're going to continue to meet, and hopefully BCTV involved in covering those further Planning Commission public info sessions as well. All right, next up, we reported last week on the Root Social Justice Center's solidarity action against the KKK after flyers promoting the terrorist group were distributed in residential areas in Burlington, an action that have led police to arrest 21-year-old William Schneck on charges of hate crime enhanced disorderly conduct. Schneck pleaded not guilty this week, but if prosecutors can prove that he targeted Vermonters based on their race when it came to how he distributed the flyers, he could face up to 4 years in prison. And while realistically it's hard to imagine that any involvement with the most notoriously racist domestic terror organization of all time could be motivated by something other than race, hate crime charges leave burden of proof for racial motivation on the shoulders of the prosecution. During last Thursday's Solidarity Action, Root co-founder, Black Lives Matter proponent Sheila Linton spoke about the importance of remaining vigilant against this kind of racism that remains, even in this day and age, absolutely pervasive in our everyday lives.
When racism is at your doorstep, survival is imperative. This is not the beginning, nor will it be the end. However, all have a stake in this. Racism impacts everyone. It just impacts us differently.
All right, moving on, we'll touch base with municipal happenings in Brattleboro. With a potential police upgrade-related property purchase imminent for the town, area residents showed up in full force to this week's special select board meeting, but with the purchase agreement documents being returned to the board post-legal review as late as that same afternoon, the board opted to delay discussion of the 3 police fire upgrade project proposals until the board's next meeting slated for this coming Tuesday.
The agreement is ready, 17 pages worth, but it was only ready as of today. So if anybody wants to speak to whether we should enter into an option, which will allow us to secure the rights to purchase the Brattleboro Reformer property, next Tuesday would be a good day to come talk about that.
The three latest proposals to the much-beleaguered police fire upgrade project include one option that looks to reduce overall costs by forsaking the current Municipal Center home to Brat PD altogether in favor of purchasing the Black Mountain Road space currently occupied by the Brattleboro Reformer, while two other proposals include reductions to current expansions on development plans at the town's current downtown and central fire locations. A full report on the three proposals can be found at the town's official website, brattleboro.org, where a link in the new sidebar on the right-hand side launches a detailed PDF on the three options. And in addition to discussion planning for this coming Tuesday's regular select board meeting, the town will be hosting 3 public forums dedicated solely to the project, starting with a Saturday morning meeting at 9 a.m. on the 21st of November at the Green Street School Gym, followed by a 6 p.m. meeting at the Academy School Gym on Monday, November 30th. And finishing with a meeting at the BAM's multipurpose room at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, December 2nd. All right, a few more headlines of note. Longtime WTSA News Director Tim Johnson announced this week his plans to step down as full-time news director after 42 years at 96.7, with plans to pursue a town clerk position in his native town of Vernon. And while he'll continue to work for the station in a part-time capacity, those used to hearing his distinct voice reporting on the hour news over the FM dial, us at 545 Live included, will have to go through an adjustment period.
Before we jump into our calendar coverage this week, and it's a cornucopia of events to promote, it's been just a few short months since ground was broken on the new Red Clover Commons Affordable Housing Unit, which is set to replace the floodplain-plagued Melrose Terrace property. And with the cold weather and winter coming, area officials are hoping the project's timeline remains on track, something BCTV producer Russ Grayback was at Exit 1 this past week to document for himself as crews worked late into the night pouring concrete for the new low-income establishment. All right, it's time to launch into our BCTV video calendar, which is all sponsored by the Brattleboro Savings and Loan, as their generous contributions to BCTV each year help fund a weekly look at area upcoming events.
Brooks Memorial Library is hosting a free college essay workshop tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. in the meeting room on the 3rd floor. All high school juniors and seniors looking for free advice on college essay writing are urged to attend and bring a laptop, smartphone, or tablet if at all possible. As 20-year educator and college essay master Julia Taylor will take area college hopefuls through the ins and outs of the Common Application essay. Again, 1 to 3 p.m. on the 3rd floor at Brooks Memorial Library tomorrow. The event is free and walk-ins are welcome. No pre-sign-ups needed.
And before we close out the calendar today, this week was, of course, Veterans Day, and here in Brattleboro, that means a complete roster of celebrations for those who've served this country and returned home to share their stories. And as we look ahead to next week's edition of the calendar, we'll be prepping you for the American Legion's huge Vietnam Vets Recognition Dinner event and everything that's been put into making that happen. That's set to grace the Legion Banquet Hall here on Main Street starting at 5 p.m. a week from tomorrow, Saturday, November 21st. All right, all that's left now to wrap up on this Friday the 13th episode is a look at this weekend's weather, courtesy of the high school's Morning News Advisory broadcast crew, BUHS TV. Take it away, guys. What's this weekend's weather look like?
It's really cold out. I mean, these temperatures probably aren't accurate, but it's been super cold out, like we're almost in Antarctica. So I was arguing that we could start playing our holiday music now because it's so cold out. But Adam has a different approach to this, so let's go back to the desk.
That does it for another edition of BCTV's Weekly Media Roundup, 545 Live. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check back in with us next week for another edition right here on BCTV, Comcast Channel 8, and 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, thanks for watching.
It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's Nightly News.